Hey everybody. Originally I wasn't going to record today. Like I said, I've been focusing on the writing, and I actually just got a lot of stuff done. I was getting ready to hop back into the writing, and I was texting back and forth with my aunt, and we had a conversation that kind of made me reflect on a few things. So I decided I would come talk about it. The last couple days, I've been very productive. I've been getting a lot done. Had these great bursts of energy, and I've been focusing on my own personal goals at the same time. Over the last few months, I've been doing great with my health. I've been sticking to it. I've been doing, what I need to do. I've been getting myself right. You know, and earlier this morning, I was killing some time while I was waiting for something. Um, I was looking through, my Facebook memories, and I know I've commented on this before, but she really liked to take summers off. In the last 4 years, for three of them, we were broke up around this time, or we're just getting back together. Like I could tell that from the memory, like the stuff I was sharing. It's funny, I talk about pattern recognition, but it took me a while to catch on to that one. And that's because we choose our own blind spots. You know, you won't see what you don't want to see. That's why people stay in, toxic relationships. Uh, we put our own blinders on. I talk all the time about the company you keep, and I am dead serious. Like, I have noticed consistently, I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. You know, my life has been a repeated cycle of I go to church, I build up my faith, my life goes good, I get distracted, I stop going, my faith dips off, life gets horrible. When I hit rock bottom, hey, I got to get back into my faith. Let me go. Life improves. I've done this repeatedly a few times in my life, and I'm really hoping this time I, you know, quit forgetting. I think I've grown enough that it's finally locked in. Um, I realize what's more important, what my real priorities are now. You know, I don't want to let myself get distracted anymore. Not by things that don't mean me any good anyway. You know, and if they were the right thing, then they would feed into and support those goals, not deter me from them. And that's a really good indicator. If there is something that makes you flourish and you're with somebody who doesn't want you to do that, that is a huge red flag. Right? If something is empowering to you and they don't want you to feel, empowered, whether it be jealousy because they don't think that they can do it that way, or control because they don't want you to, build yourself up and realize what a piece of crap they are. I love that meme. It's like, don't beat yourself up over it. They were a piece of crap who deserved another piece of crap, and you're not a piece of crap. That's why it didn't work. That about sums it up. You know, someone who's very shallow, cared about image, very materialistic. That is the exact opposite of what I want in this life. I live very simply. I ain't got to show off for anybody. Got to stick to my purpose, though. I found that, and I'm going to. Um, at least I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to stick with it this time. I was talking the other day. Just the other night at Bible study, it was funny. Somebody made a comment about me because I'd gone to a different church for that weekend, and unfortunately I had to do it again this weekend. And the reason I say unfortunately is because I hate missing back. I hate missing at all, but I hate missing back to back even more. This will actually be the first time that happens. I missed one week about a month ago. because I was having stomach issues that day, and I didn't want to go to church and, embarrass myself. Um, so I stayed home that day, and then um, yeah, I also got to spend some time visiting my dad in the afternoon after I'd gotten myself right. So that day was like a whole different ball game. But that's the only time I've missed. You know, and it's again the company you keep, that circle, absolutely. My faith, hearing a good message from the pastor, or it all rejuvenates me. Being around the right people, getting our brains working to understand what we're reading, to kind of think of things from different perspectives. That absolutely feeds my soul. And again, my ex wasn't about that. I said she didn't come right out and say, no, you can't go to church. But when I was into it, was like, well, we only get so much time as a family, and we should, and that is correct. But I'm not going to let myself be led that way ever again. You know, for one, the next partner I find is definitely going to come from church. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They're definitely going to be a person of faith. I need a Ruth, not a Delilah. But yeah, anywho, I was texting back and forth with my aunt, and talking about the productivity, and it kind of like snapped me. Like I started having reflections of not just like I said, looking through the memories. It made me think of the bad stuff, but that reflection of it really didn't take me long to bounce back. And that is definitely one of my gifts. You know, it's not that God doesn't let me get hurt; it's that He doesn't let me stay hurt long. No matter what I go through, again, my philosophy: get knocked down 6 times, get up 7. When I was at my darkest, at my worst, I still kept going. I mean, it came close a few times. Not gonna lie about that one, but for the most part, yeah. And on top of that, and again, this is all really repetition. It's just putting puzzle pieces together. But you know, everything I've gone through, I have every reason. I see the people around me. I have every reason to be hardened and bitter and just nasty and guarded to everybody. But I'm not. Although this last episode did kind of teach me to use my discernment a lot more. Different people get different versions of me. You want the real me, you got to be the real you, and that real you can't be a train wreck. Again, I'm not looking for perfection because I myself am imperfect. We're all human. We're all that way. But there's a difference between somebody who makes mistakes and somebody who has a corrupted soul. There's a difference between flawed humanity and just straight evil. There is definitely a distinction. Human flaws can be fixed. You turn yourself over to Christ, you become a new creature. And it will make you whole. Whole meaning complete. Complete biblically is the word perfect. So technically, if you want to achieve perfection, that's how you go about it. That's the only way. The way, the truth, and the light. Facts. Anywho, before I go off on another tangent. But yeah, when I'm in my faith, active. I have to be active in my faith. It can't just be, it can't be going through the motions. Can't just be, showing up to church, being a Sunday Christian. The deeper I get into it, the more I walk the walk on top of talking the talk, the better it gets. The more focus I put into that, the easier everything on the outside becomes. Not because the distractions aren't there, because they're going to try to come in all the time, especially now. But because they don't matter to me anymore. Like I said the other night, oh, that's right, I was going on that tangent about missing church. But one of my friends there had commented, because everybody at the church I go to there's not many in my age range, let's put it that way, and it's mostly older folk. Which is ironic, because I have an old soul, so I prefer hanging around older people. I've always been that way. My best friend was twice my age. But they were making the joke like, oh, you're going to a different church, a bigger church, trying to find somebody, and like, no, I don't chase, I attract. I'm finally letting go of the ego. I am not in control. The only thing I am in control of is me. I am not in control of my circumstances. I am not in control of anything outside of myself. And I have finally let that sink in. And again, it has been absolutely life-changing. So yeah, that's my reflections that I wanted to share with everybody today. Build your faith. Get strong in your faith. Faith is the counteraction for fear, and fear is what holds us back. There's that famous quote, the only thing to fear is fear itself. And that's true. That is absolutely true. Because fear has no real positive outcome, but it can hold back a lot of them from happening. A lot of this society is controlled by fear. But again, don't worry, I'm not putting on the tinfoil hat, but I'm serious. When you can overcome your own fear, like genuinely, you do. Again, becoming that new creature, it is not just words. It is an experience. And when it happens, it did. For sure. I am literally the exact opposite of what I was a year ago. A year ago I was very insecure. Now I'm confident. A year ago I was very fearful. Now, again, I'm human, so I do still have some fear, but not near as much. Like, there's not a lot that's going to get to me these days. A year ago, what I was attracted to, now I'm repulsed by. A year ago, I was wallowing in my own self-doubt and pity. Now it's like, you can't hold me back. I don't give a damn who you are. And I attribute that to two things. The effort that I put in for growth, because it is absolutely true. You will only grow in direct measure to what you are willing to accept about yourself. And when you accept, the worst things about yourself, that's when you can change them. That's why accountability is so important. Accountability and repentance are interchangeable. It's the same thing. It is not a stick to beat yourself over the head with. It's a lens to show you truth. Because you can't change it until you realize the truth of something. Then, once you realize the truth of it, we are in our Father's image. We are co-creators of the universe. We can speak or bring things into existence. We see it all the time. Too many people take it for granted. But it happens every day around everyone. And when you live the right way, it really changes how that dynamic works. And again, this is lessons I've learned through my own personal experiences. This is not me, talking a bunch of hoodoo, dogmatic, whatever. This is just talking purely from experience. And it has been an amazing transformation, and I'm a lot happier for it. Again, that conversation with my aunt this morning, texting back and forth. She said, it seems like you're feeling good. And it's like, I am. I'm feeling the best I have in years. And I didn't even realize it for a little while. Like, I've been like this for a little bit now. And it took somebody else pointing it out for me to even notice. Like, it's amazing because the change is so gradual that you don't realize it's happening. But then when somebody points it out to you and you like reflect on it, you're like, holy cow. Like that was a wild ride. And yeah, that's basically what might happen to me this morning is, my aunt made a comment and it just made me have that epiphany, that moment, that clarity to look back. Like I was saying, the changes from just a year ago. I needed validation. I needed everybody to pat my head like I was a puppy and tell me I'm a good boy. Now, me and God. That's it. As long as I got God's approval, I don't need yours. That's my new philosophy. But that's the thing. You got to stay on that path. You got to do right. Because if you don't have that approval, then you got problems. And again, I've proven that to myself time and time and time again. That's probably the reason, my life has been the way it is because that repetition tells me for sure. Like I know for certain. Not a question, not a doubt in my mind. Doubt comes from fear, by the way. So if you have doubts, if you say, oh, well, I don't have any fear, but you have doubts, you might want to re-examine a few things. Again, we like to trick ourselves. We make things more complicated than they need to be. We don't look at things as they are. We look at them as how we want them. We create our own blind spots. We are our own blind spots. I mean, let's face it, we can't see what we ourselves look like without some kind of reflection. Yeah, take that one a little deeper. Be it through a camera lens or through a mirror or, uh, still water. If you want to see the truth, you got to reflect. And you can't be afraid of what you see in the mirror. Because if you don't like what you see in the mirror, again, the only thing that you have power over is in here and in here. That's it. That's all you can control. You can't control your circumstances. You cannot control the choices that you're handed. I mean, yeah, you can make better choices, but sometimes you get a crappy hand. But you don't give up because of, a bad hand. Sometimes you got to sit that round out and wait for the next one, the next redeal, the next reshuffle. And I think that's what's happening with me is I'm coming out of that season of that reshuffle, you know. Now it's coming that time to come out and deal with a better hand. And it's funny because my circumstances haven't changed. Nothing external has changed, but everything internal has changed. Anyway, I'm going over time. I'm babbling at this point. A lot of repetition, but again, I want to hit the point home. If you are unsatisfied or dissatisfied with your life, you got to go inwards. You got to reflect. Because if you avoid it, if you're too afraid of yourself to do it, you will never change, you will never grow, you will never improve. You'll be stuck as you are, miserable. Again, that is not anything outside of me. That is through my own learned experience that I say that. So hopefully this hits, this message hits home for a few of you and hope some people wake up. We really are our own worst enemy. Once you get out of your own way, though, nothing can stop you. Some food for thought. So, keep taking care of yourself. Try and help each other where you can. I'll see you in the next one.